Warning, this podcast may contain themes of eating disorders, depression, anxiety, mental health, and other sensitive topics. Viewer discretion is advised. Resources will be linked in the description box.
Hi, my name is Chelsea Garman. I'm a senior human service and accounting major and a second year BondCon rep.
Hi, my name is Caroline. I'm double majoring in human services and counseling and psychology. I'm a junior currently, and this is my first semester as a BondCon rep.
Hi, my name is Soya. This is my first year as a BondCon rep. I'm a sophomore here at Lindsay, and I'm in the nursing program.
Hi, I am Elissa Smith. I'm a senior in the Bonner program. I'm a double history and secondary education major.
She is our special guest for today's episode. So everyone, I know you're not clapping right now. Clap for her. Our first guest. Welcome to BondCon Talks Wellness.
Yes.
Right. So on today's episode, last week we talked about wellness and what wellness meant to us. It was a really good episode. I hope that you all enjoyed it. And today we're going to talk about mental health. Mental health is a very, it's a topic that we can cover a lot of different things over. So I'm really excited, and I'm excited to have our special guest. Yay! Okay. So do you all want to start with our own definition of mental health?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to go first, Nancy?
Like what it means to me and like how I do it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, mental health is a pretty big thing for me. I've had a lot of issues with that in the past. Personally, I know before we started recording, we talked about some people medicate, some people don't medicate. Personally, I am one of the people who do medicate. I found that it's really helped me a lot. But it's just like such a big thing. And then also, I hate using the phrase going into education, but going into education and especially working with teens, that'll be the group I'm working with the most, like, they're going through it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how I was at their age, and I just want to be that person to let them know it's okay to have emotions. It's okay to have a bad day. And you just got to learn how to process it in a healthy way.
Yeah.
But it's a big thing for
I
me.
definitely agree with you. Thank you for sharing that. Also, off camera, we were talking about how some people choose to improve their mental health with medication or without medication. I am on team medication. And it really has helped me, so I thank you for sharing that.
Oh, I do try and be, I don't want to be like the person that's like shoving mental health awareness in people's faces, but I do like let people know that I am pretty much open to talking about whatever in that regard. Yeah.
I don't medicate. I probably need to sometimes, especially being a nursing major, and that comes with its own stress. But no, I don't medicate. I had the opportunity to, and I wanted to maybe work on it by myself, seeing if I could upkeep my mental health without that medication. Just because I have a very bad history with medication. So for me, I chose to upkeep my mental health with things that I enjoy doing, like when I'm not studying, this is what I'm doing, or to take my mind off of the things that stress me out. So I can recollect and then come back. So I don't medicate, but I probably need to sometimes.
For me, I also do medicate just for like general anxiety purposes, but also do like to practice like cognitive behavioral techniques. And we learn about that a lot in human services and counseling, and how it's very helpful with just like common like everyday issues, but also common mental illnesses like anxiety and depression. So that's one I like to practice a lot.
I mentioned earlier, but that I was on medication for my anxiety, and that's completely normal. Sitting here right now learning, people that take medication or don't take medication. It's totally up to personal preference on what you do to treat your mental health. At the end of the day, it is your mental health, and you need to do with it as you please. Some different ways that if I'm having a bad day and I'm having a really bad mental health day, some different things that I do to improve my mental health which we kind of talked about this also last week with wellness, but it's the same things. Hanging out with friends or reading, watching Netflix, just taking time to yourself, I feel like that improves my mental health. Or being with the people that uplift me and empower me, that improves my mental health.
I do know we have like a workshop or something coming up. It's like self-care versus self-soothing.
I will be leading that, guys.
And I think it's important to have that balance. I know there are some people that's like, you should only do self-care, no self-soothing. Self-soothing is a bad thing, but sometimes you just need some self-soothing. Be kind to yourself, and that I feel like that's a lot of mental health, is giving yourself some grace.
Yes.
And knowing that you're not the only person to be experiencing the emotions that you're experiencing.
I'm so happy you brought up that workshop, because that's actually what we're going to be talking about, is like how to take care of yourself self-soothing wise compared to how you take care of yourself self-care wise, because they are two totally different things. We'll talk about that later. But so mental health, like, what is it to us? And we already went over the ways that like we practice it, how we upkeep it, but defined, it is actually mental health includes your emotional, your psychological, and your social well-being. And whether we see it or not, like we need that social interaction between each other. We need that mental day where we can just take a break and relax. That's why it's always good to have at least one day out of the week picked to where you don't really worry so much on school or work or things like that, because it truly does get to you when that's all you stress about. So where do you guys want to go from there?
I think that you brought up a really good point with the different aspects of mental health. I know for me personally, sometimes like my social aspect of my mental health, that could be thriving, but then like personal, it's like plummeting. And I think that when people hear the term like my mental health is bad, I'm not having the best mental health, they think overall everything is bad, but no. Different aspects of your mental health can be good, and you're, uplifting, empowering, those are probably not the right words to describe that. But anyway, what I'm trying to make my point across is that your psychological aspect of your mental health could be thriving, but then the social part of it cannot. So it looks different for everyone, and if yours looks like that, it's totally normal, totally okay.
I think you have to have that healthy balance. When you are focusing on your mental health, you can't just strictly focus on your emotional aspect of it and then forget all about that social or that psychological, but you've also got to think, like, social media plays a big part in people's mental health. It keeps us connected to everybody, but just as much good as it does, it also does bad. So we have to keep that healthy balance in between of, okay, yes, I can keep up with my friends, but I don't need to live on social media, because that's a big cause for a lot of people's mental health.
That's a really good point. I like how you all were talking about like the different, aspects of mental health. It's really easy on social media just to compare like how you're living or how other people are even like taking care of themselves. Like that's something that people like are sometimes pretty open about on social media, or like specific accounts about it. And that can be helpful in like talking about ways to help with mental health, but it's very individualized. You can't like do everything that somebody else is doing and be okay.
Yeah, and I think the different ways that people discuss their mental health approaches and mental health issues online is also a big way in how that affects other people. Because I believe that there's a healthy way, and then there's just trauma info dumping on other people, and that can make their mental health even worse. Like I personally try and find people who take care of their when the mental health content I do consume, like content specifically related to mental health, I do try and find people who talk about it in a professional way, because I do like to have that professional aspect of it, like therapists talking about it, but then also people talking about their own healthy, and I believe that's a very specific word to like healthy ways to approach it. If somebody pops up and they're just like, not approaching it in a healthy way. I know this sounds bad, but I'm like, hide from my feed because that's what I need to do to protect my mental health.
And I like how you said that we compare a lot, because I get on there all the time and I'm like, I see people traveling and doing everything that I want to do in life, and I'm like, I get sad about it because I'm not doing it right now, and so that just makes my mental health worse, because I'm like, I could be going visiting this place, or if I had money I could be going and doing like things like that. So we do, whether we see it or not, and whether we think it's a bad thing or not, we get on social media and we compare, and and that does not help at all.
I really like that we brought up the social media aspect. I'm guilty of this, so I will go ahead and admit that. But on my social media, you will only see, and I think this goes for most people that have any social media app, they only post the highlights of their life. No one is going to post the negatives, unless that's something they do want to post. Like, I know on my Instagram, I only post when I travel, or if I feel pretty for once and, want to post a selfie. But I kind of like the trend now of making spam accounts, and like it's where you can post like your real life. Like if you go on my spam, it's crazy. Like if you look at my main account and my spam account, it's two completely different people.
Yeah.
And I always kind of have to remind myself of that. Like if I am going through my Instagram especially, and I see a picture of a girl at the beach, and she's in a bikini and she looks perfect and she looks like she's having so much fun, immediately I think like, oh, I'm so jealous, or oh, I wish I could be her. But she could be having a terrible day. She could not be enjoying her day at all. It's just you don't know the full story, and on social media only the good parts are posted. So I always have to remind myself of that.
I definitely like how you pointed out like about the pictures of yourself. Because I feel like we're all guilty of this, but like when we want to post a picture of ourselves, we take multiple and then we send them to all of our friends and we're like, pick the ones you want me to post. Which ones do I look the best in? Because I know for a fact I've done that so many times.
Oh yeah, I go to Sean and I'm like, Sean,
does this look good? Yes or no? Like,
am I pretty?
So I really enjoyed that you pointed that out, because I feel like we don't realize it's a bad thing, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's also more along the lines of we should feel confident in ourselves no matter what. Like, I've gotten to that point where I will post it if I like it. I haven't went to any of my friends here lately and I'm like, yes or no. But I should feel confident in myself enough to be like, I like that picture. I don't care if anybody else doesn't like it. I'm gonna post it.
This is such a side note, but it reminded me, when we went to St. Augustine last year, I remember me and Celia, we were hanging out a lot, and when we were all taking pictures, she would like me taking pictures, and she would be like hyping us all up, like, you look so pretty, you look so good, do that, do this, do this. And I think especially in our society today, I think women are pushed to go against each other, not to empower each other, not to uplift each other. And I think it's really nice that, like, sitting here today, we have a group of 4 women who are here to talk about mental health, how to improve it, and we're here empowering and uplifting each other. And I just wanted to point that out, that's always going to be one of my favorite St. Augustine memories, is you just always, complimenting everyone and uplifting each other. So, just a little something.
I hate the phrase hype beast, but we really should.
We really should, though.
Absolutely.
Oh gosh. No, I'll do it. Whenever I have this is just like something random I do. I have a bunch of like different themed playlists on Spotify that I've made, and one of them is just like sunglasses emoji, and it's like, man, I'm feeling myself playlist. If like I have a big presentation coming up, and I'm like, I'm freaking out about this, but I'm gonna listen to my playlist, and my gosh, I'm gonna feel good about myself. Because I think music is a powerful tool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not gonna lie. You talk about music as a powerful tool. I literally, like, whatever I'm feeling, that's the music that I listen to.
Yes, oh yeah. Listen, speaking on the topic of mental health, this is crazy. I don't care if I'm in the best mood or the worst mood. I generally listen to sadder music. That's what makes me happy. It's probably not the best for my mental health, but like 99% 9 times out of 10, I'm listening to a slower paced,
Oh yeah.
sadder song, and that makes me happy. Don't know why, but you do you.
Yeah, I used to be in therapy, and I remember distinctly. I was driving to my appointment, and it was just pouring down rain, and I just had like some heavy bass, some real bass heavy music. And I told my therapist about it when I got there. She's like, "Why don't you listen to something soothing?" I'm like, "Because the bass soothes me. I need the aggression."
I love that you brought that up because when we were, I was driving with Alex. Alex is my fiance. I'm in a very happy relationship. But when I get in the car, I was listening to Taylor Swift's The Way I Loved You, and that song is about her ex. And I was singing it at the top of my lungs. I was blasting it. And he looks at me and he goes, "You know that's about her ex." And I was like, "I don't care. It's a good song." He's like, "Okay."
Yeah. If your man or woman does not support your T Swift obsession, kick him out. That's all I'm going to say.
Now he just sings it at the top of his lungs with me too. So.
Okay, so next thing we're going to talk about is just how common mental health issues are for college students, because that's something that we've all talked about our experiences, and it's something that's really common, becoming more common, especially just like how stressful life is right now. And college is a really vulnerable time for mental health issues. So we have just a few facts about it. So as of July 2022, the Mayo Clinic reported up to 44% of college students reported having symptoms of either depression or anxiety. And those are two very common mental illnesses just in general. And then there was also a study in 2014 conducted through Penn State that found that anxiety has surpassed depression as a leading mental health issue facing college students. So these are really serious things that college students are experiencing, and it can make their education more difficult, socializing, just having so many different things that we have on our plates. It's hard to keep up with everything if we're struggling mentally and not knowing what to do or like what resources to reach out to. And then there was also a study by Psych Central that found that 63% of college students reported feeling overwhelming anxiety, and that 23% had actually been diagnosed or treated by a mental health professional. And then this percentage actually increased to 71% as of 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's really scary to see like just how prevalent it's become and how common it is, but not a lot of people talk about it that much.
Kind of going back to the social media aspect, this is such a pro of social media is I'm so like just listening to you read off those studies and that research. I'm so lucky to live in a generation where social media has progressed so much, and you know it shows that how I feel sometimes I'm not alone. Like being able to search up and like see that other people feel this way. Like I'm very thankful that we have these tools now. Just hearing you say that, it just
That's a really good point, because like you definitely don't want to feel alone in something like that, and it is sad that people experience this so much, but it's nice knowing that it's not abnormal necessarily.
Yeah. I will say, like, of all the things that our generation like gets dunked on for, I would say this is one thing we do well.
Oh yeah.
Is communicating. I do think personally, communicating effectively is something I personally need to work on. But we know to talk. We know to talk. Yes. I think just maybe learning how to talk.
And I think with social media during the COVID pandemic, that was such a pro because, you know, when we were isolated at home, when we weren't able to go out and have that social interaction, we were able to use social media to, you know, keep up with somebody's life or to check on somebody, see how they're doing. You know, that's a pro to social media as well.
Okay. So the next topic, or aspect of mental health that we obviously need to address in this podcast is therapy and resources that you can reach out to for help if you are experiencing any of these symptoms like anxiety, depression, or if you fear that your mental health is not the best and you want to work on it, we're gonna list some resources and talk about some different ways that you can improve it.
Yeah, so on campus, we do have counselors that you are able to go and talk to. I personally use Sarah Mitchell just because I'm a little bit closer to Sarah. I was scared at first to sit down and talk to someone about my problems because I always feared that my problems weren't valid and that somebody had it worse than me and that I shouldn't complain about my life. But that's not true at all. It is okay to go and sit down and just talk to somebody because you really don't understand how much it helps you to just sit down and talk about how you're feeling and what makes you feel that way. Because it helps you not only get somebody else's input, but it also helps you reevaluate the situation.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I was gonna talk about that. Which, and I don't care to share this. That's why I'm on this podcast. But I have gone to therapy in the past. I'm currently not, but I am looking into getting back into it. But I started therapy because, I just had this overwhelming sense of anxiety, and I thought that I had depression, but in my mind I was like, you have everything that you've ever wanted. Like, you can't be depressed. Like, you shouldn't be depressed. Yeah. And I remember, like, at first going to therapy and talking to my therapist, and I was like, I don't know why I'm sad all the time because, my parents are married, I have siblings, I'm going to college, like, I'm engaged, my life is planning out for me like how I wanted. And I remember asking myself and asking my therapist, why am I so sad all the time? And I remember her telling me that's depression. You have depression. And she was like, you can have everything you want and still have anxiety, still have depression. And that really struck a chord with me because no matter how much or how little you have, you can still be sad and you can still have bad mental health. And I'm really thankful that I did start therapy. I actually started it a year and a half ago, and if you're scared to start going to therapy, I could not recommend it more. Now, it may take a couple times to find the right therapist that works best for you, but it is a journey. And if it were not for therapy and learning how to cope with my anxiety and depression and getting on medication, I don't know where I would be right now because I was so depressed, and I didn't even know that I was depressed. I didn't think that I could be depressed, but you can be, and if you are, it's okay. Sorry, that was a long tangent.
Oh, no.
But
it's like, and I feel like a lot of people have that approach. They're like, well, I have everything I could ever want, but some people don't think that, well, it's just mental illness doesn't care if you have a wholesome, put together home. It doesn't care if you have $1 million in your bank account. It doesn't care if you have $0 in your bank account. It will target you. It's just a thing. And I remember, because again, I haven't been in therapy in a while, but I have been through it, and I started freshman year of high school, sophomore year of high school. I did, unfortunately, lose a friend to suicide about halfway through freshman year, and that just wrecked me. And I at first went to help me process that, which I mean is another valid use of therapy. I highly encourage it. But then once I started working past that, I was just developing on my how to healthily cope with my anxiety, working with my depression. I'm gonna tell you, shout out to Dr. James. That woman is a saint for dealing with me. And it's just, I wasn't with her for a very long time, but just therapy, big thing. It was the whole, I remember like the thing that told me, like the moment I had in therapy that really told me, I should probably be here. It's like, she asked me to say something nice about myself, and I just stared at the wall for 5 minutes and cried. Yep. Like, I could not think of a single nice thing to say about myself. I'm like, I should probably stay in therapy. Yeah.
Also, speaking from personal experience. I don't want you to feel like I'm
No,
talking about you,
you're fine.
but this is from my personal experience. When I went to therapy, I was seen by a professional, and then I had to answer a bunch of questions, take a couple quizzes, and then I was officially, is that the term, diagnosed with anxiety and depression. And I remember leaving that therapy session feeling like something was wrong with me. Not that it was my therapist that made me feel that way, but hearing that I actually had anxiety and depression made me feel like I was sick. Made me feel like just that I wasn't enough, or that, you know, something was wrong with me. But as I went to therapy more and more, I'm thankful for that diagnosis, because there's nothing wrong. Like we've talked about, like you said, no matter if you have millions of dollars or $0, mental illness, it will come after you. So that's just another thing, that if you have recently been diagnosed with anxiety, depression, or any type of disorder, there's nothing wrong with you. It's completely normal.
Well, it's like you said that your diagnosis made you feel kind of, whatever might, like I'd always suspected. I was like, because mental illness is, genetics is also a factor in that a lot of times, and I have a lot of mental illness history in my family. So the fact that I was like confirmed, it was like, oh, yeah, no, well, I suspected, but it's nice to have it confirmed.
Yeah. Go ahead. No,
for it.
No. Well, I feel like me and you were just going back and forth. I'm not taking over this podcast. I'm sorry. But like, she's like saying something, and I'm like, oh yeah. But mental illness, it runs in my family as well. Like, I have had people in my family on both sides, my mom and my dad, that have committed suicide because of their mental health. But growing up, it wasn't really talked about in my household, and I felt like I couldn't really explain to my parents how I was feeling. And when I started therapy, I hid it from them for a few months. But once they found out, they were actually really supportive. But like, definitely, I think with people that grow up in homes that where their feelings or emotions aren't really talked about, that can also affect your mental health. So I've definitely been there. If you're experiencing that as well, if you feel like you can't talk about your feelings or your emotions, and I hate to say that I couldn't talk about my feelings or emotions, it's just, I don't know, I felt like we didn't really want to focus on the negative per se, but it definitely is something that should be talked about.
I feel like, well, I'm hoping that this podcast can like be a way for people to, I guess, feel more comfortable with talking about that, or even like reaching out to us if they need to, or just people on campus like seeing it as an open door to, this is something that is completely normal to talk about and okay to experience.
If you're in Bonner and you have my phone number, reach out.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to feel like they have to go through something alone, because for the longest time I felt like that. I felt like I needed to just bottle it all up, because, you know, hey, when I was in high school, that was when my mental health got the worst. The year of 2021, before I came, my senior spring semester, before I came to college, I was so depressed, but I didn't know it. I was like, oh, I'm on the basketball team, I'm on the softball team, you know, I'm a straight A student, like, I have everything that a kid could want, but that's not true. You know, I had just as many mental battles as the next person, so I don't want somebody to sit there and think their feelings or their mental illness is invalid, because I promise you, they're valid. You are able to think that, you are able to go and seek help, because if you really truly are depressed, you need that person that you can sit down and just talk to. Because I remember the first time I ever talked about my problems, I just sat there and I unloaded, but after that I felt such a relief, and like I felt this weight lift off of me because it was finally out. And I don't want somebody to carry that weight around.
Oh yeah. Well, and then I know there is a lot of but a lot of talk about how therapy isn't always accessible for some people. Because I know if my insurance hadn't covered my therapy, I would not have been able to go. Thankfully, Lindsay Wilson has great resources for that. But gosh, I was going somewhere with this. But like, if you can't afford therapy, I hate using the phrase afford therapy because I believe everybody should be able to have access to it.
Absolutely.
But if you cannot, I think it's also important to have those people in your life that you can go to. But I would, every time like I'm in the throes of depression, my funks as I call them, because Sean is my husband, he sees me literally all the time. He can tell if I'm in a mood, but I'll be like, hey, I'm having a moment here. Can I talk to you about it? Like, I make sure it's okay with him, because everyone's like, I don't want an emotional man. Sean's an emotional guy, and I am here for it.
Yes.
I support my emotional man.
Yeah.
Sean, if you're watching it.
Oh no, he could, but I like to, if you have somebody, you know, that's not a mental health professional, making sure that you're checking in, like, hey, I need to talk, can I talk to you? Because they may not be in a good headspace of their own, and I just personally don't want to be like, hey, I'm having issues, take my issues, without being like, can I talk to you about this?
I'm really glad that you brought up like access to therapy and like here we go again, us bouncing off of each other. But I work at a local pharmacy here in Columbia, and there's a doctor's office right next to it, and a therapist, the one that I saw originally, goes there twice a week. And I remember one day I was at work, and for some reason something just set me off. I started having a full-blown panic attack. There were customers in the pharmacy. I was around all my coworkers, and it was really, really bad. And one of my coworkers pulled me to the back of the pharmacy, and she was like, what's going on with you? And I said, I don't know. I just feel sad all the time. And I remember telling her, like, I don't want to be here. Like, I don't, like, I mean, I was hyperventilating. And she said, well, how about this? Why don't I go over and make you an appointment to see the therapist? And I was like, oh, like, I don't know, like, my parents, like, I don't want them to know. And she went over there. She checked to see if my insurance would cover it. And to this day, I don't even know if my insurance covered it. I honestly think she probably paid for my first session, and if she did, I'm forever grateful for that, because I did not want my parents to know. But she scheduled my appointment, and she gave me this slip of paper with the time and everything. And I remember I pulled up to go into my therapy session the first time, and she was actually going to work, and she just hugged me, and like she remembered that it was that day, and she hugged me, and she was like, good luck, like, I'm really proud of you for going. And that kindness that she showed me, she didn't have to do that. I mean, she could have just, you know, calmed me down, but she went over and made an appointment for me. And I hope that I can do that for someone as well. So like Alyssa said, access to therapy is not always easy for people, but if you're experiencing anything that we've talked about, come to one of us and maybe we can even try and help you like my coworker did. I just really wanted to point out that story because it like changed my whole perspective, and like that's also one of the reasons that I chose to go into human services and counseling, because I want to be able to provide that for people.
Like Caroline said, like for me, again, I was really hesitant to spill my problems out to a random stranger. So even if you decide you don't want to do therapy, it's always nice to have that one person that you can just sit down and talk to. They might not be able to help you like a therapist will in the aspect of being able to diagnose you and prescribe you medication if that's what you're needing, but they'll still be able to be that shoulder that you need to cry on.
Process.
Exactly. And so, because I know sometimes that all I want is to sit there and rant and just have somebody listen.
Oh yeah.
And I'm grateful that I have friends who will sit down and actually let me do that, and then they'll just rant with me. And so it's okay if that's even what you need to do, but you should never feel like you're going alone. You're going through it alone, and you should always feel like you have that person that you can just talk to about anything, or sit down and be like, hey, can I talk to you for a second? This is really weighing on me.
Well, something like whenever I talk to Sean, and I'm like, he's like, do you need me? He's like, do you want me to listen so you can rant, or do you want me to fix things?
Yeah,
He's like, am I listening or am I fixing? What am I doing here? Like, just ranting today. No fixing, just ranting.
Okay, this is the last thing I'm going to bring up, because I feel like we're probably This is probably gonna be a long episode. But I was sitting here thinking about this. I mentioned that I grew up in a household where, we talked about our feelings and emotions, and I have really supportive, caring, loving parents. I don't know what I would do without them, but I felt as though I couldn't tell them about going to therapy, and then I went anyway. And when they found out, they were upset at first because I didn't tell them. But now that they know that I do struggle with anxiety and depression, it's like a switch has flipped. Every time I come home, they're asking me how I am. I'm able to sit down and actually communicate how I feel with them. Taking that leap has improved my personal relationship with my parents so much. So that's also another reason, if you're scared, you could take that leap and it could help at home, it helped me personally. My relationship with my parents now is better than it ever has been. So that's just another aspect that I want to bring up.
I am so happy with this podcast today, guys. I think it's been wonderful. I think it's been, educational, and I really hope it's been inspirational for somebody to go and seek that help that they need, or to go and sit down and talk to somebody about their problems, because I promise you, everybody goes through it. We are all humans. We have bad days. We have good days. But we all need that help, and it's okay to need that help too.
Yeah.
Don't ever feel like you have to sit there and body up all of your emotions, because it's not healthy for you. And your mental health is very, very important when it comes to your everyday life.
And I know that I've been told that I've literally had younger bonders come up to me and be like, I thought you were scary, but now you're not. I'm like, I promise I'm not. Watch me in a classroom. I'm Ted Lasso, I swear. That's my teaching persona. But just, please reach out. I will be your bounce board. I promise.
Absolutely, all of us would. I promise you, none of us are gonna sit there and judge you for coming and unloading problems, because we all have done it.
I'll be like, girl, me too.
I feel like I literally just unloaded all of my trauma on you.
You know what? This is group therapy in and of itself.
Exactly.
Charles, do you have any resources that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I can read those off real quick. Okay, so in case you need any resources for additional things, or somebody to talk to, or get professional help from, we will have this listed in the description and everything as well. But there are different crisis hotlines that we have access to, both links for websites and also phone numbers. So just a few of them are AA, HIV, Consultation, Referral Services, Childhelp or child abuse, and then there's a crisis text line, peer support communities if you want to do something that's online and talk to people, but not people that you know in person, might be helpful. Disaster distress, Narcotics Anonymous, domestic violence. There's also RAINN, and it has the link and the phone number as well. And then also the suicide and crisis hotline. And then just different live chats as well that you can go to and talk to people if you need something immediate, rather than waiting on a phone call or a website. And all of this will be in the description, saying which one is which.
Can we add the Trevor Project on there? That's a big one.
Absolutely.
Personally.
That's actually, yes, there's one on
Oh, is it
here. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. That
is,
should be.
that is a personal one.
Yes, that will,
Near and dear to my
will
heart.
be on here, and also the phone number as well. So that was a good one to bring up. I forgot it was on here.
Alright, guys, any final thoughts? Comments?
Thank you.
Yes,
for-
thank you
Yes,
so much.
thank you for
Yes,
joining us.
Thank you for
Perfect
being our
first
first
guest.
special guest.
Guinea
Absolutely.
pig. I'm down with being a guinea pig.
See, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. And again, we really want you guys to come and talk to us if you ever need it. We are all here. We all understand that you go through things, and as bonders, that's what we're supposed to do. Is we're supposed to help each other out.
And I know I'm graduating in 4 months, but still reach out.
And remember, a happy person has a healthy mind. Thank you all.
Bye, guys.